Have you ever said you believed and still calculated every move? Have you ever said you were praying and run in the opposite direction? Have you ever called on the name of God and still been afraid? Jacob did all of these things. The Bible calls him a man of faith. This is his story. Previously, Jacob worked 14 years in Laban's household. The man who deceived was deceived. And now 2 sisters are wives to the same man. When Leah's 7 days ended and Rachel's 7 days were done, 2 tents went up. 2 homes inside one household. When Leah's tent was standing, the first thing she carried inside was not bedding. It was a pot, a set of hearthstones, a ladle, a knife, a cutting board. She wanted to cook for Jacob, to pack his lunch when he left for the fields each morning, to have a warm meal waiting when he came home. But there was a problem. Jacob had to serve 2 wives. One night in Leah's tent, the next in Rachel's. On Rachel's nights, Leah did not know how to send the food she had made. She could not carry it there herself. She knew the look Rachel's eyes would give her. It was not cruel, but standing in front of it made her position too clear. So on those nights, Leah sat alone by the pot and sent nothing. Rachel's tent was different. When it was standing, the first thing Rachel did was arrange the inside. She hung cloth of good color on the walls. She moved the lamp again and again until the light fell right. She placed a piece of cedarwood in the corner so the fragrance would greet Jacob when he stepped through in the evening. She still went to the fields each day to tend the flock. Cooking and Jacob's lunches she left to Bilhah. But Bilhah was young, and she had never cooked. The first porridge was half burned and half water. The barley bread the next day came out like stone. Rachel came home from the field and saw it and said nothing. She herself knew no more about cooking than Bilhah did. Jacob ate the bread that evening. He said nothing. But Leah knew. The smell from Leah's cooking fire drifted toward Rachel's tent all day. Winter was coming. The sky changed. The morning air changed. The color of the grass on the hills changed. Before winter arrived, all the flocks scattered to summer pastures had to come home. Jacob would be gone for several days. All summer, Leah had been preparing. On hot days, she spun thread, wove cloth, and sewed. A quilted coat padded against the cold. She had measured Jacob's shoulders and cut the cloth to fit. She knew what cold nights in the open field were like. She also dried meat, pressed cheese, packed raisins, food he could carry and eat easily for several days away from home. Before dawn tomorrow, Jacob would leave. But tonight was Rachel's night. Leah looked at the coat in her hands. She knew the look that would meet her if she walked to Rachel's tent with it. Her feet would not move. Zilpah came quietly to her side. "Should I go?" "No, I'll go." She walked toward Rachel's tent. Her steps slowed as she drew close. Then a sound came through the walls. Laughter. Rachel's laughter. Bright, spilling outside. Leah stopped. And then another sound. Jacob's laughter. Leah had never heard it before. No, that was not quite true. She had heard Jacob laugh, but not in her tent. In her tent, Jacob was quiet. He ate, he prepared, he left before dawn. Silence was the face Jacob showed in Leah's tent. But now, his laughter was coming through the canvas walls. Tears came to Leah's eyes. She did not stop them. She could not stop them. Her hands were shaking. The hand holding the coat, the hand holding the basket, both shaking. Leah slowly lowered herself to the ground. In front of the tent entrance, in a visible place, she folded the quilted coat and set it down carefully. She placed the basket beside it. She tucked the cloth covering so it would not slip. Jacob would see them when he stepped out before dawn. Then she stood up. Her hands were empty. The coat was gone. The basket was gone. But something remained in those empty hands. She could not name it exactly. Loneliness. Sorrow. Something that was both and something else besides. She carried it in both hands as she walked back to her own tent. From Rachel's tent, the sounds continued. Leah did not look back. Zilpah was standing at the entrance of Leah's tent, waiting. When Leah returned, neither of them spoke. Leah went inside and sat down. The lamp was burning low. In that small light, Leah's shoulders were visible. They were moving, silently moving. It was a night when no one was watching. Zilpah was outside. Jacob was in another tent. But God was watching. In the night when no one else saw, God saw Leah's trembling shoulders. The coat folded at another woman's tent door. The basket set beside it. The empty hands. God saw all of it. Before that winter arrived, Leah's body changed. In the mornings, she could not bear the smell of the fire. Zilpah understood before Leah did. She quietly took over the pot the next morning without being asked. Leah sat in the corner and slowly understood. She was pregnant. The moment she knew, something hot rose inside her chest. Joy or tears, she could not tell. It was both. The Lord has seen my sorrow. And then another thought arrived. If I give Jacob a son, he will love me. The following summer, a son was born. Jacob was not there. He returned the next day. The servants would not let him put down his pack. "Your firstborn has arrived. Go quickly, we will handle this." Jacob walked into Leah's tent. His firstborn son was asleep in his mother's arms. "He looks like you." Jacob studied the child's face for a long time. The forehead, the mouth, the small hands. Then he spoke. "You worked hard." That was all. 2 words. Not cruel words, not wrong words, but not the words Leah had been waiting for. Jacob sat with them for a while. Then he stood. Tonight was Rachel's night. He simply stood and walked out. Leah watched his back disappear. The child was breathing in her arms. and tears came. In the morning, Leah gave the boy his name, Reuben. The Lord has seen my affliction. Surely now my husband will love me. Everything was in the name that God had seen, and a hope that had not yet died. When Leah's second pregnancy was announced, Rachel stopped going to the fields. She left the flocks to the servants. She cleaned the tent and rearranged everything. She found a cedarwood bed and had it brought in. When Leah's third pregnancy was announced, Rachel's face went still. She did not eat that evening. Late in the night, Rachel finally spoke. If Leah weren't here. She did not finish the sentence. When Leah's fourth pregnancy was announced, Rachel did not speak for the entire day. That evening, Jacob was returning from the fields. Rachel was standing outside her tent, waiting. When she saw him coming, she ran to him. She grabbed his arm with both hands. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her face was pale. "Give me children, or I will die." Jacob looked at her for a moment. Something changed in his eyes. "You are my husband. Isn't it your duty to do something? Leah has 4 already, and I have none. Is this right? Is this fair?" Jacob's face went still. This was the man who had always melted when Rachel cried. But not now. Her words were landing in him one by one. Finally, Jacob spoke. His voice was low and hard, but there was fire underneath. "Am I in the place of God, who has kept you from having children?" Rachel flinched. Jacob's eyes were different. The eyes of someone who had held something back for too long. "I love you. That has never changed. But the opening and closing of the womb, that is God's work. How can I do what only God can do?" "So there's nothing you can do? Leah keeps having children, and I just have to stay like this?" "Do I love Leah more? Do I love you less? What does love matter? Love without children is nothing. Every day I hear sounds from that tent. Reuben running, Simeon crying. I sit in this tent alone and listen. Do you know how long that has been? What am I in this house?" "You said you would die. Did you think that would move me? You do not want to die. You want a child. Those are different things." For the first time, Jacob's voice rose. Both of them went silent. Jacob steadied himself. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, but cold. "I love you. But when I cannot give you what you want, you call my love worthless. That is not something I should have to hear." Jacob turned away. He walked toward Leah's tent. Tonight was Leah's night. Rachel stood where she was. His back grew smaller and disappeared. The door of Leah's tent opened and closed. From inside the tent, children's voices. Reuben calling for his father. Simeon laughing. The strength went out of Rachel's legs. She sank to her knees on the ground. There was no moon. The ground was cold. Rachel's shoulders moved. A sound came out of her, small at first, then growing. When had she last wept like this? She knew Jacob was right. She knew he could not stand in the place of God, but knowing it did not help. This was a night when logic could not reach the grief. Bilhah came quietly out of the tent and knelt down beside Rachel on the ground. She said nothing. From Leah's tent came Jacob's low voice, putting the children to sleep. Rachel listened to that sound and pulled her knees to her chest and held them. Inside Leah's tent, Jacob was playing with the children. Reuben climbed on Jacob's back. Simeon grabbed his arm and hung from it. Jacob shook them both at once. The children shrieked. Leah watched from across the tent. This was it. This was what she had wanted. Jacob set the children down and picked up his work. Leah came to him. My husband, Reuben is growing, and the tent is getting too small for him. When you go to the fields, it might be good to take him along, to teach him. Rachel has been very sensitive lately. If she saw me with Reuben, it would only wound her more. Would it not be better to ask your father? A sound came from Leah, small, barely audible. Jacob's eyes were already back on his work. Leah turned and put away the dishes. She had mentioned Reuben. Jacob's answer had been Rachel, in her own tent, in a conversation about her own child. Even there, Jacob was somewhere else. That winter, Leah bore her fourth son. It was time to give him a name. With Reuben, she had said, "The Lord has seen my affliction. Now my husband will love me." With Simeon, "The Lord has heard that I am unloved." With Levi, "Now my husband will be joined to me. I have borne him 3 sons." But Jacob had not changed. Leah held the 4th child for a long time. She gave him his name, Judah. "This time I will praise the Lord." Jacob's name was not in it. No hope of being loved. No asking that he would turn toward her. Only God. For the first time, she had not put Jacob inside a son's name. She was beginning, slowly, to understand what that meant. After that day, something in Rachel changed. She had to win against Leah, by whatever means. That drive pushed everything else aside. Rachel sent Bilhah to Jacob. Jacob hesitated. Rachel pushed him forward. Bilhah bore a son. Rachel named him Dan. God has judged for me. Bilhah bore another son, Naphtali. I have wrestled greatly with my sister and have prevailed. There it was, in the name itself. Wrestled, prevailed. The news reached Leah. Leah made Zilpah a proper wife to Jacob, not a concubine as Rachel had done with Bilhah, but a wife with proper ceremony. She owed Zilpah that much. Zilpah bore a son, then another, Gad, Asher. It was the wheat harvest. Reuben had been in the field and found a plant with a strange-shaped root. The older servants laughed and said, "Your mother will be glad to receive it." Reuben ran home. Rachel saw him going into Leah's tent and followed without a word. Leah was bending over the root, examining its unusual shape. Rachel walked in and spoke. "Give me those. You don't need them anymore, sister." Leah looked up. The moment she heard the word mandrakes, she understood everything. What was in her hands, what Rachel wanted, what Rachel's words had just said. "You don't need them anymore." Leah's expression changed. It was not the Leah that Rachel was used to. "Rachel, is it a small thing that you have taken my husband? And now you want my son's mandrakes too?" The voice did not tremble, did not waver, low and clear. Rachel paused. She looked at Leah's eyes. She had never seen Leah speak this way. "Then, in exchange for your son's mandrakes, tonight my husband will come to your tent. Is that enough?" At that moment, Jacob appeared. Returning from the fields, he saw the scene. 2 women outside Leah's tent, Rachel's hand pointing at something, Leah holding a bundle of plants. Jacob stopped. Both sisters saw him at the same moment. Leah moved first. She walked out to where Jacob stood. No hesitation. She stood before him and spoke. "Come to my tent tonight. I have bought a night from Rachel, with mandrakes." Jacob looked at her eyes. They were different. The eyes of someone who had endured a very long time and had decided to endure no differently. Jacob nodded and walked into Leah's tent. Rachel stood watching their backs disappear. The mandrakes were in her hands. Was this right? Was what she was doing right? The thought brushed through her for a moment. But the mandrakes were in her hands. With these, she would conceive. With these, she would finally have his son. That was what mattered right now. Rachel turned and walked away alone, holding the mandrakes, into a moonless night. After that, Leah bore Zebulun and a daughter, Dinah. From the time of the mandrakes, Rachel changed. She spent more time alone. She was often seen staring at a fixed point, seeing nothing there. The mandrakes had not worked. Nothing changed in Rachel's body. Watching Rachel this way, the one who hurt most was Jacob. The woman he loved was coming undone, and he had nothing to give. One evening, Jacob sat between the 2 tents. He thought about the 2 sisters, the closest they should have been. Same father, same mother, and yet they had become the ones who hurt each other most. That thought brought another, Esau. Jacob closed his eyes. The 2 brothers who should have been the closest. Same father, same mother. And yet somewhere, they had become the ones who hurt each other most. He saw Rachel. He saw Leah. And inside that image, he saw himself and Esau. Jacob sat for a long time. He had believed all his life that Esau had hurt him. The father's love Esau had kept for himself. The way Esau had looked through Jacob as if he were not there. But now, the hand that had offered the deer, he had pushed it away. The praise Esau had spoken to their father on Jacob's behalf, Jacob had never answered. Standing outside the wedding in the dark, Jacob had put himself there by refusing to go in. He had taken Esau's birthright for a bowl of stew. He had walked out of his father's tent, wearing Esau's name. Tears came to Jacob's eyes. It was not Esau who had hurt Jacob. It was Jacob who had hurt Esau. He missed Esau. He wanted to see his father, Isaac. Was he still alive? He wanted to see his mother, Rebekah. At Bethel, God had said, "I will bring you back." Had that promise not yet been fulfilled? Or had Jacob not yet been ready? God saw Jacob that evening, the night he thought of Esau. The tears. The moment he understood for the first time that it was he who had hurt his brother. And God opened Rachel's womb. Rachel was pregnant. She did not believe it at first. When she was certain, she sat alone in her tent and wept. Joy. A kind of tears she had never wept before. A son was born. Rachel held him and looked at his face for a long time. He looked like Jacob. He looked like Rachel, too. She gave him his name, Joseph. God has taken away my shame. That was all. No mention of winning. No mention of Leah. God had done it. Only that. Rachel pressed her face against Joseph's cheek. He was warm. She had wanted this warmth for a very long time. She had not wanted to defeat Leah. That had never been what she wanted from the beginning. She had simply wanted this. She had forgotten that along the way. Jacob held Joseph. And for the first time, the thought came to him clearly and without question. I have to go home. He wanted to see Esau. He wanted to see his father. The promise God had made at Bethel was alive again in his chest. He looked down at Joseph's sleeping face. The child breathed. Jacob held him and sat very still for a long time. Holding Joseph, Jacob knew it for the first time. He had to go home. But the road home was not simple. 20 years of work, and Jacob had nothing of his own. 4 wives, 12 children. He had to lead this family back to Canaan, and Laban had no intention of letting him go. In the next episode, Jacob sits across from Laban, no longer a son looking for his father's inheritance, now a father who must provide for 12 of his own. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next.